Well, I was born and raised in Seattle, born right in downtown Seattle, and then my parents migrated first to Whidbey Island, doing the dropout thing long before it was fashionable. That didn't last too long. Farm life was not in the cards. So we moved back to the city in 1949, and we settled in the Burien area, which is where I grew up and went to high school, Highline High School.
Wow.
My parents were very good about instilling values to their kids, and I think the ones that come through loudest to me, especially as I look back, are, first of all, work hard and skillfully do excellent work. Secondly, help others. My mother was particularly good about instilling that. She was always the first person to show up with some kind of a casserole dish if there was a death in the family, or the first person to be there if someone was ill. And probably the third thing was the value of persistence, of keeping going, keeping on. But my parents were also very big on doing your civic responsibility, not just voting, but being involved in elections and making sure that your government ran as a democracy. They said that was up to us. I have two brothers. I have one brother who was 18 months older than me, and another brother who was 4 years older than me, and only my older brother is still living, my oldest brother. I went to the University of Washington to undergraduate school, and then I went to law school at Willamette in Salem, Oregon. Well, I remember as a child watching the McCarthy investigations on TV and having a real sense of indignation about the fact that these people were being called before Congress, one of the most powerful bodies in the world, and asked to answer questions, but they had to leave their lawyers in the hall. And I remember thinking this was very unjust and very unfair, and then thinking that if I were a boy, I'd be a lawyer. But of course, little girls couldn't think about being lawyers back in those days in the 50s. Well, two people were really helpful to me in terms of thinking about going to law school. One of them was a young man that I dated who was working at the legislature, and the other one was Wing Luke, who was a Seattle City Councilman. And they were very encouraging to me. Most people were not encouraging. In fact, the standard line that you heard in those days was, "What? You can't go to law school. If you go to law school, you'll lose your femininity." Well, right from the time I graduated from law school, I wanted to be a litigator, and I was very interested in being in the courtroom. Unfortunately, in that day and age, very few law firms were hiring women, let alone letting them do litigation. It was more customary for women to be in the back rooms of probate title companies and doing probate, something of that sort. So fortunately for me, I started with a small firm in the University District who was interested in having a litigator. No one else in the firm wanted to do litigation, and so that began my career as a litigator. Then I started my own practice in 1974. I was interested in being close to the courthouse because my practice was so much litigation, and Pioneer Square was in the throes of a wonderful renovation at the time, and so I went into Grand Central on the Park with some other lawyers who wanted to office share and started my own practice and was a solo practitioner for the most part for 10 years. Particularly Judge Dimmick. I appeared in front of Judge Dimmick a lot, and there were some things that I just really liked about her in the way that she carried herself as a judge. She was very no-nonsense, down to earth. She said what she had on her mind and was very plain-spoken, and that was what I liked the best about her. She was in firm control of the courtroom, but always very pleasant and friendly, and was just my idea of the ideal judge. Many of the male judges I also looked up to too, but I especially identified with her since she was female. I think some of the keys to success in law practice and practically any endeavor that you want to be involved in are, first of all, to do excellent work. Many people have asked me how I got to the position that I've gotten to, and there are lots of things that go in addition to doing excellent work. Some of it is having the right breaks and having help along the way. But fundamentally, doing excellent work is the bedrock and cornerstone of any success in any career. Sometimes I think people lose sight of that doing excellent work is first and foremost. Then from there, I think it's very important to reach out to others for help. We don't have to go it alone. I know when I was first in practice, I felt constrained to go it alone in many cases because I was afraid to admit my ignorance, because if I admitted my ignorance, it would be not personal to me, it would be ignorance for the entire female race. Because those of us who were pioneers as women lawyers were carrying the banner for could women practice law? Could they even do the job? But fortunately, I was rescued from that because one of my early mentors was John R. Lewis, who was an attorney in Eastern Washington and president of the Washington State Trial Lawyers when I first came into law. And he immediately took it upon himself to be my mentor and taught me almost everything that I know about law practice, and gave me very, very practical advice, everything from what books to buy and have in my library to making the court rules your best friends so they won't be your worst enemies, to how to try cases, how to offer and get exhibits admitted and everything else. So he was a wonderful mentor to me and really helped me. And he also taught me the value that a mentor receives from mentoring. And he would say to me, share the goodies, and that is tell me about your successes. I don't care how small your success is, share it, tell me what's going on. And he taught me that it's not only the person who's being mentored who benefits, the person who is doing the mentoring benefits too. And how the person who is mentoring benefits is that they get refreshed and renewed. And then later on, when I was doing adult education learning theory, I learned that, in fact, in adult education learning theory, this is part of what is known as the regenerative cycle in education for development. And it's a very well-known principle that as people develop over time, as they become more senior in their careers, that mentoring people who are coming along behind them actually benefits the person who's doing the mentoring, because it keeps them fresh, keeps them from becoming cynical, and helps them to see again their profession through the eyes of a beginner, helps you to maintain the beginner's imagination and enthusiasm. I think one of the keys to my having had not only a career where I say, gee, I was successful, but to having a career that has, up to this point, made me feel very fulfilled, is the notion of balance in my life. And it was one of the reasons that I decided to move from litigation to the judiciary, was because I felt that the judiciary would offer me more balance in my family life. And it has. And I had just become married before I became a judge, and my husband has been a wonderful support to me, going through 2 Supreme Court elections. And he's just been the man behind the woman, and has really made all the difference for me in my life. And of course, having the love of a daughter and now a grandchild, I have a niece that I'm very close to who has 4 little kids under 6, and having the closeness of family has been a great treasure for me. Well, when I was in the 8th grade, my school counselor told me that I was not college material. And so 3 degrees later, here I am sitting on the Supreme Court. So when I talk to young people, especially the kids that I work with in the Austin Foundation, that we are trying to motivate to physical, emotional, and mental health well-being, I tell them to never believe anyone who tells them what they cannot do, and always believe those who tell them what they can.
Hi, Faith. It's Barbara Rothstein. I'm happy to be here on your tape saying thank you. You and I go way back, Faith. We were there at the very beginning when the number of women in the judiciary were very, very few. And I can remember your support for me, and what a leader you've been, and what support you've been for all women in law who have tried to move ahead. And I want to thank you for all the work you've done and the wonderful justice you've been, and wish you lots of fun and luck in your retirement.
Well, Faith, on behalf of your colleagues on the Washington Supreme Court, I want to extend congratulations to you for receiving the Passing the Torch Award from the Washington Women Lawyers. I also want to extend congratulations to you for the fabulous judicial career you've had as a Superior Court judge and as a member of the Washington Supreme Court. You've been a real credit to the judicial profession, and we've enjoyed so much serving with you in Olympia these past years. We're going to miss you a lot after your retirement, but we know from our past experience with you that you're going to be very busy and probably lifting a few weights along the line, and so we hope you'll stop in and see us whenever you're in Olympia. You've been a great colleague.
What can I say about Faith? What is there to say about Faith? I'm sure you all know her very well, as I do. And what's in a name anyway? Shakespeare said, "That which we call a rose, by any other name, would still smell just as sweet." I wonder, though, would we be tempted to go up and find out if it were named something like skunk cabbage? I doubt it. So my question is, Faith, would you have accomplished as much as you have had you had some other name? I don't know. Faith, who would have the faith except Faith to do the things she's done with her life? To change her name in midstream while she was in an elective position, well known with her first name, her dad's name, to change it to her mother's name. Who would do that? But Faith. She had faith. Who but Faith would run for the Supreme Court, be elected, and stay only one term, then retire while she's still young enough to have another career? Faith did that. And who among us would be a power lifter? Only Faith. I want to tell you, Faith, that as long as this is for you, that I want you to know how proud we are of all of your accomplishments, how much you've done, and how what you've done for those, mentoring those who have come after you in the profession. I think the words of Virgil, this was in 70:19 before Christ, are appropriate. Of course, I couldn't resist this quote. I got it out of Bartlett's quotation, but it certainly is apt for you, Faith. It says, "As long as rivers shall run down to the sea, and shadows touch the mountain slopes, and stars graze in the vault of heaven, so long shall your honor, your name, your praises endure." We, and I use the imperial we, although I know I speak for everybody in this room, we salute you, Faith, and wish you the best in your continuing odyssey. I look forward to hearing what you're doing in your next career. Will it be climbing a mountain? No, that's too tame. Please keep in touch with us, good friend.
Faith, I was so excited to learn that you are receiving the Passing the Torch Award. We have been friends for decades, and we've grown in our careers and lives together. You know, many times people ask me who I like to associate or work with, and I tell them simply this: I like to be with people who have a smile on their face, an optimistic spirit, and a passion about their work and also about life, and that's you. As you know, I've met so many people during my career and my life, and I meet people who have drive and compassion and knowledge and understanding and have the ability to get the job done. But it truly is rare to meet a person who has all of these qualities. You do. I have believed that you have been a blessing in my life and also a blessing to the community. And I'll also be excited about the time when you pick up another torch and continue on with a journey of life.
I remember the first time I saw Faith Ireland. It was in 1983, and I was working for Judge Dixon, and he said, "Come on, bailiff," he always called me bailiff, "we're going to go see a lady judge get sworn in." And I saw Faith, and I'd never seen anyone like her. The kind of panache she had and confidence when she was sworn in, one of the first women judges in King County Superior Court. And I was reminded of that line from Gloria Steinem, we're becoming the men that our mothers wanted us to marry. She was so impressive. But then the next time, I was a trial lawyer in front of her in the Harbor v. Rape case, a high-profile case with protesters, all kinds of controversy, and spectators and security. And it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and she was incredible. The best, bar none, trial judge that I'd ever seen and have ever seen since. During that time and right after, she did things that were extraordinary. One that comes to mind for me is when, in the Stephen Farmer case, Judge Johnson had testing of someone that had the AIDS virus that was spreading it to young men all over Seattle. And it was a very controversial decision. And he had people come after him in the courthouse. Faith, on her own, went and escorted Judge Johnson out to make sure that he was okay. That's the way she is. She's extraordinary.
Hi, Faith. How you doing? This is Willie Austin from the Austin Foundation. I have with me Conrad Real and Ashley Mitchell, and we're just here to say congratulations. Faith, I just want to thank you for everything you've done. You've been such an inspiration. Your leadership, being the president of our board of the Austin Foundation, you've taken us a long ways, especially last year when we had to deal with so much adversity. You've stepped up and you've caused the board to grow, and you've put us on a higher level. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and just hope that you will always be with us and continuously help us grow to be worldwide. Thank you.
Justice Ireland, Faith, once again you passed the torch. Nobody has passed it more often or with more grace and style. It's fitting to remember that we first met at a Washington Women Lawyers meeting in 1971 when you swept into the law school in that fabulous gaucho costume, felt hat to high-heeled boots. The members of Washington Women Lawyers were at the law school to recruit students as members. You stood out. And ever afterwards, I, like so many others, benefited from your experience and from your energy and from your great generosity and your ready laughter and your constant loyalty. And I feel privileged to call you my friend. You are unusual in having the courage and self-knowledge to live a purposeful life, and you have a gift for reinventing yourself. So your retirement from the court is the opening of a new chapter, and I can't wait. One thing I know, you'll never stop passing the torch. Congratulations, girlfriend.